Hello, 4th grade. Welcome to my house. This is Mr. Ferris. I wanted to give you your first video lesson by Mr. Ferris on tide pools. If you remember, last week I had you watch some videos on what the tides are and what causes them. And if you remember, the tides are where the ocean level actually rises and falls each day. So each day there are 2 high tides where the water comes up, and then 2 low tides where the water goes back down. And this is caused by the gravitational pull of the moon and the sun on the waters of the Earth. So it kind of creates this bulge around the planet. And as the Earth spins, it kind of goes in and out of that bulge. The different places on Earth do. Anyways. So one of the cool effects of the tides is that we get these things called tide pools. And they're very interesting ecosystems. You're going to have a chance to explore them a little bit today. So in this drawing I have over here, we have a coast, a beach. So over here is land, and then you have the water, that's the sea level. And then you have this underwater world here too. Now we're going to say that this right here is high tide. So this is the highest that the water is going to come in today. And then 6 hours later, it's going to go down to low tide. So we're going to also mark on this drawing where the low tide is. So we're going to say the low tide, say, goes to about there, when the water recedes. Now, what's interesting is if you'll note the landscape of the ground beneath the water, as the water level drops, it's going to hit this little hump right here. And the water isn't going to be able to drain out of this little pool right there. It'll continue to go down on the other side, but this water has nowhere to go, so it's going to be stuck there. So I'm going to erase the high tide mark here for a moment and show you just what it's going to look like at low tide. So at low tide, when the water goes down, we're going to be left with this nice little pool of water right there. And this is what we call a tide pool, because it's a pool that is formed by the tides. So at high tide, tide pools are often underwater and you don't really notice anything special about them, but when the tide goes out and it goes down below the level of these tide pools, they're left with water in them. And there's all sorts of interesting creatures that'll live in there. So some of the creatures that will live in there would be things like sea stars and starfish. You'll also get things like sea urchins. You'll get crabs in there. I'm just drawing them all here for you. You get other things like snails. And you'll get other interesting creatures, octopus, fish, whatever. And it's a completely unique ecosystem, and it kind of changes every day because the tide is coming in and covering it up and going out, and then those animals are left in there. And in some ways it's kind of nice to be the animal left in the tide pool because say there's a bunch of big fish out here in the ocean that want to eat you, and you're a little fish left in this tide pool, you can be pretty safe. But granted, there might be a lot of things in the tide pool that would want to eat you as well, so you have to watch out for all of that. But anyways, this is what a tide pool is. It's just a body of water that is formed by the tide going out and then the water not being able to completely drain from certain areas. And they're especially fun because they're easy to explore because they're right on the coast and you can walk down in them and pick up a crab or snail or a lobster or whatever you happen to find in there and just have fun exploring. So today you're going to get a chance to do that, though not at a real tide pool. You're going to be able to do that virtually online. By the way, I would recommend, if you ever get a chance to explore a tide pool, go ahead and do that because it's a lot of fun. It's going to be better than the computer version. But the computer version will still be fun, I hope. You'll still be able to learn some things and get to see some cool creatures. So in the RenWeb page, there should be a link to another website, and that website is kind of this online program that'll let you kind of click through different places in the tide pool, and it'll bring up these different places that have different animals in them, so that you click on this rock and you see what's under it. Maybe there's a snail under there, and it'll tell you about different types of snails. So it's one of those things you can kind of just click your way through. But if you ever happen to get stuck and you can't find anything to click on, I think there are arrows at the bottom of the page, and those arrows will let you work your way out of there and get to somewhere else. So feel free to take notes as you go through your tide pool exploration. I think that'd be a lot of fun for you to be able to record some fun facts in your notebook. You don't have to write everything down that's on the website, but just some fun facts or some interesting creatures that you encounter. And of course, it's going to be not terribly realistic, being that it's through a computer, but it should still be pretty fun for you. So feel free to take notes, have fun exploring, and enjoy this neat part of God's creation that He gave us. Enjoy the tide pool.